Well, let's take a look at our theme verse. Again, we're in an awesome series called How to Live Through a Bad Day. And our theme verse is Hebrews 12:2, and it says this. It says, "Keep your eyes on Jesus, who both began and finished this race we're in. Study how he did it, because he never lost sight of where he was headed, that exhilarating finish in and with God. He could put up with anything along the way, cross, shame, whatever it was, and now he's there in the place of honor right alongside of God." See, Jesus is at the right hand of God as we speak in heaven. Where's Jesus right now? Right now, he's at the right hand of the Father, according to the Bible, and he's interceding on our behalf. But we all know that there was a time about 2,000 years ago that Jesus walked this planet. He was fully God and fully man, but he walked this planet. And there was a Thursday night where he would have had his Last Supper with his disciples. And about 9 o'clock that night, he was betrayed by one of his own and arrested. Then he went through 3 different trials by 2 different kings, and the trial actually lasted all night long. And if you actually study the context of this, and you know your history there, you do know that having a trial at night was actually illegal. It was illegal, but they tried because they had it out for Jesus so bad that they actually broke the law in themselves to try Jesus and to put him through those trials by 2 different kings. And at 9 in the morning, he was whipped, he was scourged, he was beat, he was embedded with a crown of thorns on his head, and he was nailed to a cross. And as that cross slammed into the ground, Jesus said these words, Luke 23:24, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing." I mean, imagine that. Here Jesus is, he's hanging on the cross, he's been through the beatings, he has a crown of thorns on his head, he's hanging on the cross, and the Romans, they lift it up and they slam the cross into the ground. And the first thing that he says is, "Father, forgive them, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing." Not only did Jesus say these towards those that had falsely accused him, beaten him, and nailed him to the cross, this was actually the first thing, like I just mentioned, it was the first thing that he said. And as followers of Jesus, when we're having a bad day, guess what? This needs to be the first thing that we do as well. Again, you see in Hebrews it says, study how he did it. That's our job as followers of Jesus. We got to study how Jesus did and then do it that way. So if you're taking notes, the title of today's message is this: Forgive everyone who's trying to ruin your life. Well, that's a good one. That's a good one. See, some people have this spiritual gift called ruining your life. I truly believe that. I truly believe there's people out there, it's like, there's spiritual gifts. We believe in the spiritual gifts. And there's spiritual gifts out there, and some of them have the spiritual gift of just ruining your life, ruining your day. I mean, they're just great at it. And if you live long enough, there will be people that come across your path that will hurt you and offend you, and you will have no explanation of why. You will have no explanation of why, but they just, for some reason, have it out for you, or they hurt you, and there's just no reason. There's no explanation. Luke 17:1, it says this: "Then he said," Jesus said to the disciples, "It is impossible that no offense should come." That's what Jesus said. He has his disciples around him, and he says, hey, if you're trying to get through this life without getting hurt, if you're trying to get through this life without being offended, if you're trying to get through this life without pain, Jesus looks at him and says, I got to be honest with you, it's impossible. You're going to have hurts, you're going to have pains, you're going to have offenses, there's going to be things that happen to you, and there's going to be no explanation why. But Jesus shows us how to live through those things. The Bible tells us, man, if we're trying to live our life pain-free or hurt-free, it's going to be impossible. It's a guarantee that offenses will come our way. And when offenses come, we have 2 responses. We have either forgiveness or unforgiveness. How many of y'all know which one's easier? It's easier to hold on to the unforgiveness. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't believe they did what they did to me. You know, they had no right to do that. I don't even know why they did that. That was so painful. And you get so mad. But I wrote this down in my notes. See, unforgiveness is like drinking poison while expecting the other person to die. It's I'm so mad at you. And then it's really hurting you. See, when the reality is when you hold on to unforgiveness, the person that you're really harming, that you're hurting, is you. But forgiveness is to no longer hold people as prisoner for the pain they've caused you. And when you forgive them, you realize that you were the prisoner all along. But when you offer forgiveness, I forgive you, guess what happens? You get set free. So when someone offends you, hurts you, or causes you some type of pain, the first thing that Jesus would say is, hey, bro, from my own experience, forgive them. Just let it go. Let it go. See, if there's anyone that had the right to hold on to unforgiveness, it was Jesus. In a 12-hour period, there were 5 bad things. If you study Scripture, there were 5 bad things that happened to Jesus. And today I want us to take a look at these 5 things. And the first bad thing that happened to Jesus was this. Jesus was betrayed. Any of y'all out there ever been betrayed before? I mean, there's just a betrayal that happens to you, and you're like, wow, I can't believe that happened. See, Jesus was betrayed by one of his closest friends named Judas. Judas traveled with Jesus, preached the good news with Jesus. They shared 3 years of memories together and had many meals and conversations sitting around the late-night campfire. And Judas was the one that had Jesus arrested for 30 pieces of silver. For 30 pieces of silver. I mean, imagine walking with Jesus for 3 years, and he brings you into his inner circle, and he's training you up how to be a leader in the church and build the church and start the church, and all of a sudden, the treasurer. By the way, this is a little side note. Some people think that Jesus was just like broke and poor and just this poor, pitiful little guy, just this meek guy that was just like, please let me in your heart. I'm cold out here. It's raining. I'm wet. I'm just so poor. I'm so broke. Give me a meal. What broke person travels around with a treasurer? Come on now. I'm just saying, Judas was the treasurer. See, some of you have experienced this. You love someone deeply, and they betrayed you. Jesus knows that pain. He knows that pain. He can relate to it. The second bad thing that happened to Jesus was falsely accused. And this is the one, if I'm honest with you, this is the one that I struggle with the most. It's being falsely accused. If there's anything that causes me to hold on to unforgiveness at times, it's when I'm falsely accused about something. There's nothing harder for me to navigate than when people create stories that aren't true and then other people base their views of me based on false accusations. Maybe that's happened to you. Maybe that's happened to you. It happened to me in school. Maybe it happened to you in school. It happened to me in the workplace. Maybe it's happened to you. It's happened to me in the church. What? Some people think the church is perfect. It's not. Look at the Bible. The Bible will tell you the church is not perfect. Just by the way, if you're new here at Vibrant Church, we don't try to be perfect. We do try to be a genuine church, though. If you're here long enough, you'll get offended, you'll get hurt, and we've got to walk through those things. But we want to be a genuine church that truly loves and cares for each other, that we're willing to walk through hurt. We're willing to walk through offenses. We're willing to have conflict resolution and deal with things in a healthy way so that we don't get hurt and we just run. We actually get hurt and we get healing. Because and I'll just say this, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a marriage, no matter what it is, when hurt is handled correctly, when pain is handled correctly, when offenses is handled correctly, it actually builds intimacy, not distance. And so that's why we are big on, hey, offenses are going to come, hurts are going to come, but as a church, we've got to walk through these things so that we can actually have a stronger relationship. See, these things have probably happened to you. You've probably been falsely accused as well. That's why I, just like you, have to actively and regularly forgive. I have to actively and regularly, just like you, day in and day out, when I'm spending time with God, there's things that come to my mind, and I'm just like, God, no, I forgive them. I release them. They're yours, Father. You do whatever you want to do. You are my vindicator, Father. I'm called to live for you, and no matter what comes my way, God, I trust you with this circumstance and this situation. See, the night Jesus was betrayed, there were people in his trials that were paid to falsely accuse him. He knows that pain. The third bad thing that happened to Jesus was rejected. Any of y'all ever felt that way? You felt rejected. Jesus experienced rejection, the most pivotal moment in his life when he needed support the most, and all of his disciples abandoned him and rejected him. Matter of fact, one of the closest disciples named Peter, good old Pete, man, Pete in the Bible, he was there and he was around a campfire, the rooster crows, and he's like, oh, snap, Jesus told me that rooster was going to crow and that I was going to betray him. Oh, no. And Jesus is standing in the trial there, and then Peter was asked, hey, do you know this man, don't you? You were actually one of his followers, weren't you, Peter? And Peter goes, no, I don't even know him. Jesus understood what rejection was. See, some of you walk through our doors today feeling rejected. And especially in our culture today and with our young people, and it doesn't matter if you're on social media or you've even heard the news, man, that social media can be brutal, especially amongst the young people. And there's some of you that have walked in and you know exactly what rejection feels like because you've been through things. And I'll just say this about social media. If social media causes you long-term anxiety, frustration, fear, jealousy, hurt, and pain, get off of it. Get off of it. I mean, there's seasons that I go through, to be very honest with you, that I just I'll take a month off of social media. By the way, as your pastor, please don't rely on social media to contact me because I'm on it, but there's times where I take a break and you'd be like, well, my pastor didn't get back with me for like a month. I messaged him. I sent him a comment on his stuff. What's up with that? Don't get offended at me if I don't reply to you on social media. So anyways, don't send me an email. I won't read it. I'm just saying, no, I'm kidding. I read your emails. I do. The fourth bad thing that Jesus experienced was Jesus was abused. Jesus was abused. If there was ever anyone that was abused, it was Jesus. He was abused so badly that the book of Isaiah says he was beyond recognition. He was beyond, that even his mother looked at him and she could barely, the only reason she could recognize that it was Jesus is because that was her son. He was beat that bad. He was abused. He was abused. The fifth bad thing that Jesus experienced was Jesus was humiliated. See, the reality is whenever we see an image of a cross, we look at Jesus and we see him on a cross and we see that there was, like a towel or something like that wrapped around his waist. But the reality is that when he hung on the cross, he hung there naked. And the reason that he hung there naked was because the Romans liked you hanging there in full humiliation amongst all the people so that you would pay the penalty for what you did. See, why did Jesus allow himself to go through this? It wasn't just for our forgiveness, though that's a part of it. He went through this. He hung on the cross. He went through all this pain. He faced rejection. He could have easily stayed in the comfort of heaven, but he chose to come to this earth and go through what he went through so that he could empathize and help us when we go through these things, when we experience bad days. Check this out, Hebrews 2:16 through 18. It says, it's obvious, of course, that he didn't go to all this trouble for angels. It was for people like us. The Bible tells us that he went through what he went through for people like you and me. That's why he had an encounter in every detail of the human life. Then when he came before God as high priest to get rid of the people's sin, he would have already experienced it himself, all the pain, all the testing, and would be able to help where help was needed. Let me say this. There's nothing that you can bring to God that he won't understand. There's nothing. There's no sin. that you can't bring to God. He faced temptation. Again, he's at the right hand of the Father, and you've heard me say this before, that he's at the right hand of the Father, and whenever he sees you going through temptation, he's interceding for you. He's standing in the gap between God and you, and he's going, Father, he goes, have grace on, have mercy, give him strength, give her strength, because I know what that temptation is like. I faced it myself, and that's a hard one, because I know he empathize. I cannot say that word today. He feels for you, is what I'm trying to say. He understands everything you've gone through because he's been through everything you've been through. And he wants to show you how to successfully get through a bad day. Marco, how do I get through the betrayal? How do I get through the false accusations, the rejection, the abuse, and the fact that I was humiliated? Some of you are in this room this morning, you have been humiliated. And it has caused such a deep pain in you. And Jesus is going, hey, I've been there. I've experienced it. I'm going to heal you. There's a brighter side to this. I'm with you. And I want to show you how to get through it. Here's how we get through these things. 1 Peter 4:1. It says, since Christ suffered while he was in the body, strengthen yourselves, check this out, with the same way of thinking Christ had. Marco, how do I get through the betrayal? How do I get through false accusations? How do I get through rejection? How do I get through humiliation? How do I get through the abuse? It's by having the same way of thinking that Jesus had. We've got to think the same way that he thought. See, if we want to overcome the way that Jesus did, then we have to think the way that Jesus thought. So today I want to tell you this. I want to give you what forgiveness is not. And Jesus would say, if you've been through abuse, if you've been through pain, he said, hey, the first thing I would tell you is forgive. Forgive, release them. But let me tell you what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not minimizing the seriousness of the offense. It's not minimizing the seriousness. It was a big deal. It happened to you. It's not saying, forgiveness is not saying, oh, it's not a big deal. No, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. We just have to handle it correctly. The second thing that forgiveness is not is forgiveness is not restoring the relationship. See, when something happens to you, it's okay to forgive and to restore the relationship, but there's other times and there's other things that happen to you where it's okay to forgive, but it's not okay to restore the relationship. Maybe it's not healthy. Maybe there's some things that happen to you and they're not willing to change. Restoration is a two-person game. It requires both people in it to be in agreement for the restoration to be the relationship to be restored. So if you think forgiveness has to mean that a relationship is restored, then you will actually hold yourself hostage until it is. And sometimes restoration is not possible. And so that means it's okay that in some situations restoration doesn't happen. See, forgiveness though, restoration is a two-person game. Forgiveness is a one-person game. It's a one-player game. Forgiveness is what I decide to do regardless of what you do. It's forgiveness. I forgive them regardless of what they do or what they did. I choose to forgive. I release. The third thing that forgiveness is not is this. Forgiveness is not impossible. There's some things that happen to you in this room where it may be easy to go, oh no, it's impossible to forgive them for what they did to me. They caused me too much hurt. It's too deep. It's too painful. The rejection was so bad. The abuse was so bad. It's impossible to forgive them. And to that, I'll say this. Don't listen to that demonic lie. That's a demonic lie. And it's a demonic lie to keep you hostage and to keep you bound up. But Marco, I can't do it. I can't forgive them. Check this out. Philippians 4:13, it says, for I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. And this is my job as your pastor. My job is to show you where our strength truly comes from. So today I want to show you where our strength comes from when we walk through bad days caused by other people and it seems to be impossible to forgive. Here's the first thing that you should do. Here's the first thing that you should do when offense comes your way. Here's the first thing that you should do when pain comes your way. Here's the first thing that you should do when somebody hurts you. It's this. Number one, pray for them. Some of y'all like, oh, I'll pray for them all right. I'm going to pray that the 7 plagues in Exodus consume their life. You know what I mean? I'll pray for them. But that's not how we're to pray for those that hurt us. Matthew 5:43 through 44 says, you have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hurt your enemy. But I tell you, again, if we want to overcome the way Jesus overcame, we have to think the way that Jesus thought. And here's how he thought. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. I know that's hard to do. But if we want to overcome, that's what we have to do. What does that mean? It means that when someone hurts you, that you pray, Lord, I actively forgive them. I actively forgive them right here, right now. I choose to forgive them. I release them, God. I pray blessing over their lives. God, I pray that you would reach and that you would touch their heart, God, and that you would do incredible things in and through them, God. I pray for them. They hurt me. They persecuted me. They offended me. They had no grounds to do that. God, I pray for them. I forgive them. I release them. The second thing is this. The second thing we're called to do is this. Number 2, bless them. Bless them. So when somebody offends you, the first thing is we've got to pray for them. Second thing is we bless them. This word bless literally means, and translated, it means to speak well of. Say what? Like, okay, they hurt me though, Pastor. I mean, I'm just the pizza delivery boy. You know what I'm saying? I'm just giving you the pizza. You can take it. You can eat it. You do what you want to with it. I'm just telling you how to get freedom. I'm telling you how to get freedom when the hurts and the offenses and the pains come your way. You pray for them. And the second thing is you bless them. I would encourage you in this. For people that hurt you, don't let any ill word or hurtful word or negative word come out of your mouth towards them. God will bless you for it. God will bless you. I'm telling you, I've seen it in my own life. God will bless you for it. We are most like Jesus when we stand silent under attack. And when privately and publicly, we speak well of those that hurt us. Hey, it's easy to do publicly. You know, you can kind of overcome that hurdle. Okay, I see them publicly. Okay, God wants me to do it. I'll speak well of them. You know, they're a blessing. They're great. They're fantastic. But I want to encourage you to take a step further. Speak well of them privately. When it's just you and a close friends, or you and your spouse, or you and your group, or whatever it may be. Speak well of them both privately and publicly. Luke 6:27 through 28, it says, but to you who are listening, I say, you want to know why I believe Jesus put that there? But to you who are listening, I say, because it's easy to hear a message like this and go, I ain't listening to that. But Jesus says, but to you who are listening. And when we listen, it's wisdom. He says, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Say this with me. Say, bless. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. One thing that Jenny and I decided to do when we first got married was we decided that we're going to value 4 things. We're going to value God, we're going to value grace, we're going to value gratitude, and we're going to value generosity. Those are the 4 things that we filter our life through. And on top of that, one of the things just regarding grace was that no matter what came our way, we're going to bless people. And if they hurt us, if they cause us pain, we're going to bless them anyways. And I'll be honest with you, there's been situations that come our way that they hurt us, and they got a big old fat check in the mailbox, you know. So if you ever, if you want to get a big old fat check in the mailbox, you can hurt us, so we may send you something. But I'm kidding. Some of you are like, Marco, you sent me something, thank you card the other day. Is that because I hurt you? No, it's not. I like to send our volunteers and serve teams thank you cards just to say thank you. But one thing we decided is that we're going to bless no matter what. And I was even talking with Lee about this before service, that we're going to bless people. And I want to encourage you to do the same. When somebody hurts you, somebody offends you, man, bless the fire out of them. Just bless them. Pray for them. Bless them. Whenever somebody hurts you, they're mad at you, they're angry at you, they speak ill of you, and you bless them, you know what that does to them? They're like, how do I receive this? You know, they're like, I know what I did to you. You know what I'm saying? I'm just telling you. I'm telling you, it sets you free. It sets you free. See, when someone mistreats you, put them in the hands of God and bless them. So pray for them, bless them. The third thing to do is this, is do good to them. Pray for them, bless them, meaning in publicly and privately, speak well of them. If you want to have an impact for the kingdom of God, let positive words come out of your mouth. Let godly words come out of your mouth. Quit being negative. Quit it. Quit being negative. Speak life. That's what we do at Vibrant Church. We speak life. We're not a perfect church, but we speak life every chance that we possibly get, because the world has a way of beating people up. And as Christ's followers, as Christians, as people called to take as many people to heaven with them as they can before they die, that's our purpose. We've got to speak life to people. We've got to encourage people. Hey, you have what it takes. Hey, God's got a great plan for your life. Hey, don't worry about it. You had a hiccup. Don't worry about it. Get back up again. Get back up again. Keep going. Oh, you hurt me? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll have the maturity, even though you hurt me, I'll have the maturity to forgive you and to fix it if you want to fix it. Oh, I hurt you? I'm sorry. Please forgive me. What can I do to make this right? What can I do to make this right? We got to do good to people. If we want the power of God to walk through a bad day caused by the hurt of others, we have to pray for them, bless them, and do good to them. Let's let the Bible speak for itself. Check this out. Romans 12, 17 through 21. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, check this out. This is what God says to you and me. It is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed them. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not become overcome by evil, but overcome evil with the good. Ask God to help you in this. Ask God to help you. God, help me. Help me love my enemies. Help me love those that hurt me. Help me truly trust you that you are my avenger. And let me just say this. God vindicates you. God will avenge you. But I can almost guarantee you this. If you get offended today, it's not going to be tomorrow that he does it. It may be next week. It may be next month. It may be a year. It may be 10 years. It may be right before you pass away. It may be after you're long and gone, but they're still alive. That somehow, some way, God will avenge you. He will avenge you. He will take care of you. And when you respond the way, check this out, this is so good. When you respond the way that Jesus responds, God goes, oh, that's my son. That's my daughter. Oh, time out. Hold up. You're going to do what? You're going to do what to my son, to my daughter? Oh, no, that's my child. You don't jack with them. And he has the same thought towards you as well. You are his son. You are his daughter. And he stands between you and Satan. He stands between you and the hurt. He stands between you and the pain. He says, oh, no. You're not going to jack with my son. You're not going to jack with my daughter. I will avenge them. I will vindicate them when we go and we live. And we serve God, and we serve other people with a heart of, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to bless you. I'm going to speak good of you. I'm going to speak good of you. And I'm going to do good to you as well. Marco, I've been through so much. If I pray for those that hurt me and bless and do good to them, how do I know it'll work? Because I've experienced myself. You probably have too. But this is what I've also learned. I've learned that I've never had to forgive someone more than I've needed to be forgiven of. Let's be honest. I've never had to forgive somebody more than what I've needed to be forgiven of myself. That's why we do this. Some of y'all know what you've gone through. You know what you've done. You know that you've broken the heart of God in some things in your life. I have. I raised both of my hands. Some of y'all know my story. Feet too. But we can receive that forgiveness. We can settle in that forgiveness. We can rest in that forgiveness. And the reason that I want to leave you with this thought is because forgiven people forgive. When we truly realize, this is what I've been forgiven for, God, hey, it's easy to forgive them. Man, I forgive them. Hey, hurt people, healed people, heal people, saved people, serve people, and forgiven people, forgive people. Let's be a church. When the pains and offenses come, again, it's going to be impossible not for them not to come. When the pains and the hurts come, and we're going through that bad day where we don't know why it happened to us, let's be a church that forgives. Let's be a church that prays. Let's be a church that blesses. And let's be a church that does good to others.